So this Shabbos is Parshas Chukas. And on Parshas Chukas, we learn Dine Tumah V'Tahara. And today we will discuss a very broad-based, fundamental sugya, which touches upon so many different sugyas. Torah's Kli. How do we define Kalim b'dinei Torah? This is such a broad sugya. If we really wish to master this sugya, we need to dedicate one's man or an entire year to Zdorim in Koilel. But as I usually do, I will try to focus, and we will discuss briefly 4 different concepts, 4 sugyas. We start off with Tumas Kalim, because that is the most complex, the most complicated, and the only one that's Mena Torah. Masechet Kalim is the biggest Masechet in Shas. I don't know whether you're aware of that, because very few people learn Seder Taharis. 30 Prokim. But in Masechet Kalim we have neither Bavli nor Yerushalmi. If we would have Gemara, probably would be bigger than Bava Basra. Some Rishonim say that the 3 Bavas, Bava Kama, Bava Metzia, Bava Basra, are one Masechet, and the Gemara says Kila Nazik and Choda Masechta. And some Rishonim divide Masechet Kalim into Bava Kama, Bava Metzia, Bava Basra, but anyway. We start off with Tumas Kalim, and then we're going to deal briefly with Torah's Kli B'Shabbos, Muktzah, because one cannot be Metantel Shabbos only Ochlan and Mashkan or Kalim. Kol She'eno Torah's Kli, also Betitl B'Shabbos is Muktzah. How do we define Kli Legabe Muktzah? Kli Benatilis Yudayim Lepat, Ve Kiddush Hayom. So let's start off with Tumas Kalim. Very first Halacha and Rambam in Hilchos Kalim, the Rambam writes, Shiva mina Kalim mekablem Tumah, Habegodim v'hasakim, and then Kli or, Kli etzem, Kli eitz, Kli matechet, v'Kli cheres, Kli zchuches, dahainu, glass, mekabel Tumah midarabonon, gezerot utum matches, Kli adomo, Kli avonim, ki gilolim, vessels, kelim that are made out of earth, dirt, glole boka, or rock, loy tzulfo bekuvshen, eino mekablan tumah lo min haTorah v'lo min derabanan, no tumah at all. So this fundamental halacha is all about the material from which the kelim are made of. But the various different types of kelim have different halachas. V'lo hareize ka'hareize. Pshute klei etz toherem, pshute klei matches tameim. Golme klei matches toherem, golme klei etz toherem. Klei cheres metama ma'aviroi, klei matches megaboy. All these halachas are halacha l'Moshe Messinai. Like Rashi writes in the beginning of our Pasha, Chukim chukakti gzeres gozarti ve'en hakol rishus laharer achareihem. So Tumas Kalim is complicated, and it's not logic. It's all halacha l'Moshe Messinai. But the Chazon Ish has an interesting definition in Tumas Kalim. So the Chazon Ish is Siman Tezvav Ois Aleph, and he explains the Mishnah Masechet Kalim Perek Yud Beis Mishnah Aleph. Kores achitzim tameo, kores asirim tohero. So koirim is a plank of wood. That's a koira. The koira of prisoners is tohero. Kores achitzim tameo. Kores achitzim is like a target. When you have shooting practice, whether it's a bow and arrow, or it's a gun, or it's a rifle. So kores achitzim tameo, kores asurim that you use to lock up prisoners, tohero. Why is Kodesh Asiyim Torah? Tefes Yisrael says, I don't know how it's defined in English, but in the old storybooks, when people treated prisoners in such a cruel fashion, so they put their legs into a wooden structure. So there was the bottom plank with 2 semicircles cut out, and the upper plank, you put the prisoner's feet into that plank, and you lock them up, and you lock those 2 planks together, and he couldn't move, he couldn't stand up. So the Tiferes Yisrael writes, so when you lack that gadget, that device, it's mechuber l'karka. Kol davar shemechuber l'karka dina kekarka v'yeina mekabel tuma. Chazon Ish, I think he understands what is Kodesh Asirim different, what it is, and it's a different interpretation. Chazon Ish says, Toras Kli depends on tzuro. It is only when something has a certain form, and that form makes it suitable to do the job which we intend to do with that Kli, that gives it Toras Kli. According to the Chazon Ish, Kodesh Asirim is just a plank of wood, doesn't have a tzura. And we use it just because it is so heavy that the prisoner can't get it off his feet. That is Kodesh Asurim. And because it lacks form, that is why it doesn't have a Toras Kli. I think the Chazon Ish and Tumas Kelim is a big chiddush. But even before I saw the Chazon Ish, that was my definition, Toras Kli, legabe tiltul, kelim, and shamas. A Kli is something that has a certain tzura, a certain form, and people give it that form because that makes it fitting to do the job. I wrote a tshuva, and this tshuva will be printed in this week's Shiur. I wrote a tshuva about matches. Do matches have a Toras Kli or not? What is the nafkamina? Kli shemalachta leisu mutar latalta letzorech gufa letzorech mekoimoi. Ma she'en bei Toras Kli asur latalta lo letzorech gufa lo letzorech mekoimoi. So a match definitely is a Kli shemalachta leisu, but it's not chesor and kiss. It costs fracture of a penny, of a cent. Does it have a Toras Kli? And my maskana was it does. Because it has a certain form that is very sensible. There are the long matches if you want to put on many candles. There are the small ones if you want to put on one candle. They have a very, very suitable form. Not too thick, not too thin. Not round, easy to hold. Long enough to protect your fingers from getting burned. So Toras Kli and Shabbos depends on form. That is my understanding in Hilchos Shabbos. Does Toras Kli b'Shabbos depend on Toras Kli b'Tumah? Well, regarding Shabbos, it is clear to me, makes no difference whatsoever what the material is. What material the Kli is made of. Unlike Tumah. Everybody understands that Kli Zchuchas or even Kli Avonim, what's the difference what it's made of? It is only by Tumah, which there's a difference in the hardware, in the material, not by Shabbos. But regarding the essence of the Kli, would we compare Shabbos to Tumah? That's a machlokes Abaye and Rava, Shabbos Kuf Chov Gimel Amud Aleph. Rava bar Rabba asked Rev Yosef, Machat shenit lechoida oy ukzo. A machat. What's a machat in English? Sometimes words escape me. I don't think it's a pin. A needle. A needle which you put a thread into the needle. So the needle essentially has two parts. It has the head with a hole, and you put the thread into that hole. And that is either called kofa shel machat or charoro shel machat. And then there's the ukas, there's the spitz, there's the point. So Rava asked the question, a broken needle, in which either the point was broken off or the top of the needle, the hole was broken off. Mutar latal taloi? And he says, of course. Legabi tumah v'tahara. Sheva Kli is not makabel tumah, but b'Shabbos, you still could use it. You could take it to take something that's stuck into your flesh, a kite's got into your flesh, and you could take it out with that broken needle. So the Gemara asked, but legabe tumah v'tahara, we learn it's not makabel tumah. Rav Yosef says, Abaye says, why do you compare tumah's kelim to Shabbos? They have nothing to do one with another. Betumah kli ma'isa be'inen, b'Shabbos mideh dechazilei be'inen. By tumah, it is only when the kli is in a proper form that it could be defined as Kli Ma'isa b'Shabbos as long as you could use it as a Torah's Kli. Rava disagrees with Abaye. And Rava says, Man de komoisav shapa komoisav. Midele inyan tumah lav Kli, le'inyan Shabbos lav Kli. We do compare. But then the Gemara asks Aliba de Rava, Machat she'ein bo koitz oy charora mitele taltele b'Shabbos v'lo yomro gemar Kli ela le'inyan tumah belvad. So there is a difference between Tumas Kelim and Shabbos. Now, Abaye responds instead of Rava. Abaye and Rava are Barei Plukta. They are the two antagonists. They are the two Bala Machloikis. But they learned L'Shem Shemayim. So Abaye comes to reconcile the opinion of Rava, and Abaye is Machalik. When the Machat is broken, we compare Shabbos to Tumas Kelim. And if it's not a Kli Le'inyan Tumah, it's not a Kli Le'inyan Shabbos. But when the Machat is not broken, it just is before Gemar Malocha. It's not yet a finished product. Lagabe Tumah, it's not Makabel Tumah. Lagabe Shabbos, it is. So there's a Machloikes Abaye and Rava. To what extent, to what degree do we learn Shabbos from Tumas Kelim? According to Abaye, Baklal not. According to Rava, it depends. Difference between Golme Kelim and Kli Shenishba. So there is somewhat of a kesha between Tumah and Shabbos. And this brings us to Sugya number 3, Netilas Yadayim. Minchas Osher on Corona, the English version just came out lately, which is quite different than the Hebrew one, than the Lashon Kodesh one. But a Minchas Osher Corona Semachov Dalad, I wrote a tshuva about Netilas Yadayim in a disposable cup, plastic or paper, because people were so careful. Whatever you use, dispose of, and don't transfer things from one hand to the other and have 100 people touching the same hajab and spreading the disease and the virus. So I was asked, disposable cup lagabe netilas yadayim, and I also wrote a tshuva many years ago lagabe kiddush. Primarily, I was Isaac in DNA Kalim, Tumas Kalim. And I wanted to prove from many sources of Masechet Kelim, a Kli that cannot be used more than once does not have a Torah's Kli. It's not Makabel Tumah. But if theoretically you could reuse it, even though people don't do so, and they throw it away, it still has a Torah's Kli. That was my opinion that I developed. But how do we define a Kli legabe netilas yadayim? So first of all, in that shuva, I made it clear there are 4 different dinam and netilas yadayim. Netilas yadayim to bread, netilas yadayim to tefillah, netilas yadayim when you get up in the morning, and netilas yadayim b'yotzim mebeis hakiso. Lav b'choda machta machtinan lehu. The halachas are different. Netilas yadayim lepas necessitates a kli, and without a kli, even b'di'eved, it's not defined as netilas yadayim. You cannot eat bread, and if you made a brocha, it's a brocha levatol. Netilas yadayim letefillah, only lechatchili you need a kli. Beis hakisi, you get up in the morning, midas chasidis. So let us focus on netilas yadayim lepas. Why do we need a kli? Gemara meforeshes chulen kuv zayin umedalef that you need a kli, but the Gemara doesn't say why. The Rashba does, and the Rashba is quoted in Kuf Nun Tes Beis Yosef Mishnah Berurah at the beginning of the Simon. Chazal learned netilas yadayim lepas from kiddush yadayim v'raglayim b'migdash. When the kohanim come into the Beis Hamikdash, before they could offer the sacrifices, they need to wash their hands from the kior, and the kior was a kli, and that is why netilas yadayim necessitates a kli. The other pshat of the Rashba is kiddush mechatos, pora aduma, mayim chayim el keli. You need a kli. What defines a kli legabe netilas yadayim? Is it similar to tumah v'tahara? No. Because in Sif Aleph, the Shulchan Aruch writes, and the source of this halacha is a Mishnah Mesechet Yadayim Bekoil Noitlen. Even Klei Adoma, Klei Avonim, Klei Gelolim. These 3 types of kelim are not Makabel Tumah, Lo Men HaTorah v'Lo Men HaRabbanon. But they're kosher legabe netilas yadayim, and that's a Mishnah Mefareshes in Yadayim. So netilas yadayim does not depend on Tumah. But we saw just a few moments ago, legabe Shabbos, Kli Gelolim, Kli Adoma, Kli Avonim, mutar letaltalam. And I differentiated between the essence of a kli and the material from which a kli is made. So legabe netilas yadayim, we could make the same chilik. Yes, legabe netilas yadayim, it does not matter at all what the material is, because that is only halacha l'Moshe Sinai. But maybe when we're dealing with the essence of a kli, we do learn netilas yadayim from tumas kelim. Maybe. So in Siman Kuf Nun Tes, Shulchan Aruch says, and it is based on the Gemara in Chulin Kuf Zayin. What are the criteria? What makes a kli legabe netilas yadayim? It needs to be osui lekabel mashkin, and it needs to be machzik revius. The kli needs to be able to hold the revius like this cup standing without a need to lean it on a wall. A plastic bag is not kosher netilas yadayim. Because if you don't lean it on something or hold it, can't hold the revius. But a cup is okay. So it needs to be osui lemashkin, and that is why a bag that you take from the supermarket is not kosher netilas yadayim, because it's made for solids, not for liquids. It needs to be osui lemashkin. Sak v'kupa einam ksherim lenetilas yadayim. Do we learn from Tumah? Maybe yes. So in Shulchan Aruch there's a sif megufas chuvius, the top of a barrel. If you could turn it over upside down and holds the revius, kosher netilas yadayim. The Mishnah Berurah writes in Sif Kut Tesvav Huadin Lakol Kisya Kelim, the cover of any other kli. And the Chazon Ish disagrees. In Simachov Beis Orochaim Hilchas netilas yadayim, the Chazon Ish argues. In Mesechet Kelim Mevuar Kisui Kelim Eina Makablan Tumah, and if they're not Makablan Tumas Kelim, there won't be a kli legabe netilas yadayim. And I wonder, kli avonim, kli glolim, ksher netilas yadayim af b'sheina Makablan Tumas Kelim. Liyashiv divrei Chazon Ish, we need to differentiate like we did before. There's a difference between the essence of a kli and the material. Regarding the material, tumas kelim, yeshdin shivu mina kelim, that's halacha l'Moshe Sinai. Netilas yadayim, it doesn't depend at all what the material is. However, when we deal with the essence of a kli, maybe we do learn from Tumah, as we saw Machlokes Abaye v'Rava in Masechet Shabbos legabe muktzah. And that's the opinion of the Chazon Ish. According to the Mishnah Berurah, I would say, doesn't depend. Doesn't depend. The Mashal B'chlan has a gewaldige chiddush. Yam sheshloim achul in Perek Ches, on that very same sugid of Kuf Zayin. Simach of Zayin, and once again, Simon Lamed Beis, the Yam sheshloim argues, by netilas yadayim, you need a kli choshuv. And a kli choshuv is not just anything. He disagrees with the Shulchan Aruch Siv Dalet. I said before, legabe netilas yadayim, it needs to be a kli osur lekabel mashkin. However, Shulchan Aruch says a hat, kovish shelavadin, not a soft hat, but a hard one, like the yeshivish hats, the chassidish hats. Kosher netilas yadayim. Why? Because sometimes if a person doesn't have a cup, he'll drink out of his hat. Well, we live in a different world. I don't know anyone today that would drink out of his hat. Obviously, we're more sensitive to hygiene, to aesthetics than they were once. But the Shulchan Aruch says, and the sources in the Rishonim, sometimes people would drink out of their hats, and that's why it's defined as osur lemashkin, and it's kosher. The Mashal says a hat is not a kli choshuv. Siv Hey, the Shulchan Aruch says, I don't know how this would be called, but it's a physical law, a law of physics, that if you have a kli that's full of water, even though it has holes on the bottom, but if air can't get in, water won't come out. So you have like a ball. It has a little hole on the top and many holes on the bottom. You immerse it totally in water. It gets filled up with water. You cover the top with your finger and you take it out. Water won't come out of those holes. Gravitation won't bring water out. It is only if you lift your finger, air gets in, water will come out. I do not recall how you call how this law is defined. Shulchan Aruch says that's kosher and netilas yadayim. Marshal Yam Shloim says no, it's not kli choshev. So the Taz quotes the Yam Shloim, the Magen Avraham doesn't, I think. Kuf Nun Tasif Kot Zayin. And I have two questions. First of all, why is it not a kli choshev? How do we define a kli choshev? Why is a kli that's made out of glole bokar, tzoyas bokar, is a kli choshev, and this device is not a kli choshev? Why? And why is a hat not a kli choshev? I don't know. But where did he take that netilas yadayim necessitates it's a kli choshev? It's not found in Chazal or the Rishonim. Who says you need a kli choshev? I don't know. So as I mentioned before, Minchas Osher Simcha of Daled, I said a paper cup is kosher netilas yadayim. Well, maybe the Marshal would say it's not a kli choshev. Who says? Maybe it is. And let us not forget the Marshal is choylek on the Shulchan Aruch, halacha ke Shulchan Aruch, ein halacha ke Marshal. Brings us to Kiddush. So Reb Moshe Chelek Gimel Siman Tes Orach Chaim says you can't make Kiddush on a paper cup, and why not? Reish Ayin Aleph is Dinei Kiddush, and we are sent to Kuf Pei Gimel, which is Dinei Berchas Hamazon, Kosher Brocha, same Kosher Brocha, Berchas Hamazon and Kiddush. And one of the Asura Dvorim Shener of Kosher Brocha needs to be whole, Sholem. If it's a broken cup or it has a crack, Posel Kiddush. Even if the bottom is broken. You know, it's a becher that has a bottom. So the upper part, where you pour the wine in, is whole. Doesn't have a leak. But the bottom has a little break. Lechatchila it's posel. Only b'shas adchak b'diavad it's kosher. So Rav Moshe says a plastic cup or a paper cup, a disposable, is worse than a broken cup. And I don't know why it's worse. It's better. This is whole and that's not whole. This is a kli and that's not a kli. What's the problem with a disposable cup? So in the many tshuvas I wrote on this topic, I said, and I proved this from many sugis in Masechet Keilim, a kli that is ra'ui la'amoid has a Torah's kli, legabe Tumas Keilim, and the same regarding Kiddush. So there's a certain similarity between Kiddush and netilas yadayim, both are midarabanan. I think by Kiddush it's more reasonable to say we need a kois choshuv than by netilas yadayim, because after all, Kiddush is a mitzvah d'oraisa, it's Shabbos Kodesh, it's Yom Tov. But even by Kiddush, I think a plastic cup is a kli l'kol davar. My guess would be that Moshe, in a shuvah that was written 70 years ago, talks about paper cups that were more common in those days. And a paper cup is not really fitting for reuse. It absorbs water, hot water more so, but even cold water. And after a few minutes, it becomes too soft. You could only use it efficiently in immediacy. But after some time, it absorbs water, it becomes soft, and it's not fitting for use. Maybe that is what Rav Moshe means when he says it's like a kli shover, and he agree. But plastic cups could be used 1,000 times, 100 times. We live in an age of plenty, in an age of abundance. And our life is defined by two things. We don't mind wasting money, and we're lazy. And the combination of the two brings a huge industry of disposables. Once people worked hard, and they didn't matter. They didn't mind to wash their dishes. But we're living in a different world. And there are, I think, plastic disposables, kosher netilas yadayim, kosher l'kiddush hayom, as I explained. Before sharing with you a Dvar Torah on the Parsha, I just apologize because I forgot to say this at the beginning of the Shiur. Divra Torah today is dedicated le'ilu nishmasa of Reb Chaim Abba ben Reb Yosef, Yortzeit Lamed Sivan Tov Mem Zayin, and Moras Rocha Leah bas Reb Chaim Osher Olinsky, the mother of my dear friend, our dear friend that does so much to disseminate my Torah, the mother of Reb Chaim Olinsky. And Baruch Hashem, the Olinskis have a simcha in the family. Yoshua, Chaim's grandson, Yonatan's son, is getting bar mitzvah next week. So the others should be Melitzi Yosha for the entire family, and they should have so much nachas. So in this week's parsha we learn about Mei Merivo, which was a sin, a transgression, and Moshe Vaharan paid a terrible price for the chet of Mei Merivo, and they were not to enter and bring the people, bring the nation into Eretz Yisrael. And the Rishonim debate what exactly was the Avera, what did they do wrong? So it is clear it is only because of Kodesh Baruch Hu medaktikim chasidav kechut asara that they were liable and they were punished. But still, what did they do wrong? What exactly was the Avera? ויאמר השם אל מוישה ולאהרן יען לא האמנתם בי להקדישני לי עיני בני ישראל לכן לא תביאו את הקול הזה אל הארץ. What was the chait? And I want to discuss various different approaches of the Rishonim and the way I understand them. Rashi writes, Yan, אשר לא האמנתם בי להקדישני, שאילו דיברתם על הסלע והויצא איסי מקודש לי עיני ואידם. If you would talk to the rock, and he would bring forth water, that would be a Kiddush Hashem. And the Jews, Bnei Yisrael, would say, the rock doesn't see, he doesn't hear, he doesn't understand. And he is Makayim, whatever HaKadosh Baruch Hu says. Kal v'choyim, we need to do HaKadosh Baruch Hu's will. But instead, Moshe hit the Selah, so the Kiddush Hashem was lost or diminished. And the Ramban disagrees. And the Ramban asks two questions. If HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted Moshe to talk to the rock, why did he say Kachas Amato? Why do you need a stick if all you want to do is talk? Second question, the miracle is the same. A rock doesn't give water, neither when you talk to it or when you hit it. Same nace. What is the difference? My understanding in Rashi would be, it's not about the nace. It's not about the miracle. That generation were used to miracles. They had miracles all the time. They all witnessed the 10 plagues. They all witnessed Yetzias Mitzrayim. They got man and slav every day. Anania covered. They were full of miracles. They were enveloped in miracles. They experienced miracles every day. It was about the musar, about the teaching. Bnei Yisrael was supposed to see that the rock does it at Tzon Hashem. And I think one kasha of the Ramban answers the other. Yes, Kodesh Baruch Hu tells Moshe, take the stick. And I want the Bnei Yisrael to understand. Moshe holds a big stick, but he prefers not to hit. He prefers to talk. And that stick is like a threat. Please, listen to me because I don't want to hit you. That is the message Moshe Rabbeinu was meant to convey to Klal Yisrael. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, please, listen to me. I don't want to hit you. Ki eloi achboitz b'moisa ameis kiyem b'shuvoi midrocho v'chai. I don't want you to suffer. Your pain is my pain, says HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Please listen before I need to punish you. Tachas asher lo yavadetu es Hashem lakecho b'simcha v'b'tuv leivav meroiv koil. And that message was lost when Moshe hits the rock. That's the way I understand Rashi. Then the Ramban quotes the Rambam, Perek Dalad Shmoyne Prokim, Hakdoma LaMasechet Avos. The Rambam writes, the Aveda was that Moshe and Aaron acted angrily. And you have no right to be angry at Bnei Yisrael who don't deserve your wrath, your anger. And the Ramban totally disagrees with the Rambam, and the Ramban says it is inconceivable, unreasonable, impossible that Aaron HaKohen was angry. B'shalom u'b'mishar holach imam. Aaron Avinu is the most unangry person in the world. Oyev shalom, roidev shalom, oyev es abriyas makaber Torah. And the same goes to Moshe. So I want to tell you how I understand the Rambam. Yes, they weren't angry. But sometimes a leader must act as if he is really angry. And that is what Chazal say, Zroik mora b'talmidim. There's a gewaltige Mamer of Reb Itzele Petterburg, the greatest disciple of Reb Sosalanto and Sefer Korich Ve'or. Many sources in Shas we see Reb Eliezer ben Horganus was the angry one. He was the Kabedin. Reb Itzele says, Chas v'sholom, to cast a shadow on the midos of Reb Eliezer ben Horganus. He understood Lefi Shorish Nishmosoi. That is his style of leadership, of Hanhogas Atzibu. That is what the Rambam means. Yes, Moshe and Aaron weren't angry, but they pretended to be angry, and that was an Aveira. HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants you to lead be'ahava u'bechemla, with love and with warmth, not with anger. That's my understanding of the Rambam. So the Ramban quotes Rabbeinu Hananel. The Aveda was a nuance. They said, Hamenasela hazeh noitze lechamayim, as if it's your power. They didn't say, Hamin hasela hazeh yoitzi Hashem lechamayim, noitze lechamayim. Is it your power? Or is it all miyad Hashem? There's a Medrash that says, when the Malachim said, story of Avram Avinu and Lot, Ki mashchisem anachnu esa'ir, they were nitchom etachas kanfe Shechina, 138 years that they were at Makabel Pnei Shechina because of one word, mashchisem anachanu, as if our power and not a Kodesh Baruch Hu. So Rabbeinu Hanan quoted by the Ramban, that was the chet of Mei Meriva. But let me share with you a thought which to me is the most moving of all. Kaches hamata beheya yediyah, which stick? Which one? So all the others understand Mata Moshe. Ibn Ezra, Rashbam, Cheskuni, three great early commentators that is Shainim, they say, no, it's Mata Aharon. It's not the stick of Moshe. It is the cane of the rod, the cane, the stick of Aharon. How do they know that? Vayikech Moshe es amata melifnei Hashem. What does lifnei Hashem mean? That's Mata Aharon, just an Axquis Parsha and Koirach. All the Nesiim brought their canes, their sticks, to the Beis HaMikdash. And only Mata Aharon hoitzitzitz v'yigimol shkeidem. That is the Mata Melifnei Hashem. That was in the Beis HaMikdash. Moshe Rabbeinu hit the rock because that's what he did many years earlier in Parshas B'Shalach. Same story unfolded. There was no water. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells Moshe, V'hekachas hamata v'kisu betzur. That's what he did. And the rock gave water. Moshe understand, it's déjà vu. Same story all over again. That was a mistake. That was Mata Moshe. Mata Moshe hikes ha'yoyor. Mata Moshe split the sea. Moshe Rabbeinu's Mata is the one that punished Paroi ve'eretz Mitzrayim. Mata Aharon doesn't hit. That's not Aaron HaKohen. Oyev Sholem, Roidev Sholem, Oyev Sabrias. Mata Aaron brings peace to the world. Mata Aaron was trying to prove to Koirach that he's making an awful mistake. And if HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells you use Mata Aharon, you should understand. Mata Aharon talks. It doesn't hit. It doesn't hurt. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu is pleased with us. Kiru levavchem va'al begideichem. Ki lo yachpeitz b'moisa peis. Please open your ears, open your hearts. Listen to me. Observe by mitzvahs. Before it'll be too late. Before chas v'sholem b'chem shfucho b'shetzef ketzef emloch aleichem. listen to me, and you will have no pain and no suffering. So let us listen to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. B'b'soiris toivis Yeshuas v'nachomis, we should be zoichet to Yeshua Salam and be as Goel Tzedek, b'mheiro v'yomeinu.